You're 555, man. Welcome to the show.
Awesome.
I'm Joshua Pantellaresco. My guest is the one and only David Whalen.
Hi guys.
David
Hi
is a
Josh. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
yeah, I appreciate you coming on, man. I'm looking at like the back of this wall right now, and I'm looking at Emerald Twilight. But I think that's Emerald Twilight. Is that up there?
Yes.
So that
Yes.
are all those books
I'll
from the
stay away.
'90s? I should ask that question too.
Most of them are. I think these guys right here from the aughts, from the 2000s. But for the most part, yeah, I got some night. Well, this one right here is the 80s, the Captain America No More. I don't know if
Okay.
you can see that, which is what the Winter Soldier, Bucky and the or Falcon and the Winter Soldier storyline is based on. I've had this book in my collection since 1983, I think it came out, and it's one of my favorite Captain America runs of all time. So when Falcon and Winter Soldier came out, I was elated to find out that they were going to be adapting that John Walker story with Captain America No More. So and they've done a pretty good job. I think that with a episode run, they had to like streamline a lot of it, but I think they've done a good job. It's been nice seeing that storyline on the big screen.
See, I think you're a brave man to have Green Lantern 48 up there. I think that's 48 up there. I could be
Yeah.
totally wrong on that. Is that
48, I think you're right. Yeah,
yeah,
48.
yeah. Let's take a look.
Yep, 48. Yep.
Yeah, that's Kyle Rayner's first appearance, which is super cool. And it's also the only issue of Emerald Twilight I actually like.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, to be fair, I think Ron did a heck of a job with Kyle. I really, really did. I always thought the way they did Hal going out the door was a bit of a cop out. I always thought that.
Yeah.
Right. But the first issue was really good because I thought that was Hal Jordan as like almost his most human. Mourning the loss of the city and everything he knew growing up. I mean, that is a very and a guy was looking for just something to comfort him in times of like in times of duress and times of sadness. And didn't get it. Like he just had this remorseless order and agency that said, no, you got to keep going. He's like, you got to stop what you're doing. And you're like, well, no. And you understood it. Now I hated 49. I hated 50 because right. But 48 was, I thought, probably is actually a really good Hal Jordan story. And that's my controversial comment of the night.
I agree. I think out of all those mid 90s shake 'em up storylines, I do agree that the Hal Jordan one, while a lot of people, it did make a lot of people mad, I think that was truly one that was connected to his character the best out of a lot of those stories. You had Batman breaking his back, you had Superman dying, you had all those things happening, and all these characters changing the status quo, as they like to say. But I do think that was one of probably the best ones, the most human story out of all of them. I felt also.
Yeah. So I mean, and Kyle was the one that stuck around. Like honestly, he was the one that stuck around because he worked like that is. It's the run of Green Lantern I grew up reading. Like it's clearly the run. So, what was your favorite issue of the run?
I think that one. I think this one right here. Yeah, I think that's the one that really got me. I think there was a run with Reign of Superman, if I remember, also.
Yeah.
That they connected with Reign of Superman. I really enjoyed that. I don't remember the number, but I really enjoyed that one also.
I'm a nerd. 46.
46. I know. There you go. I've got it hanging on my wall. I should know it all exactly, but I don't.
Yeah. No, like I said, it's interesting. Like if you look at comics back in that, I think from 1986 to 1992, it's probably some of the best stuff of DC and Marvel's entire run, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I think so. We might be a little biased because we were growing up at then, and it was, but I agree with you.
Well, I don't know. Let's think about that. Let's look. Yeah, Marv Wolfman, George Perez. Right. Okay, I just finished with their Teen Titans run, which was really good.
You convinced me. You can stop right there. You convinced me. I think we're done. You won. You got it.
Yeah. It just was. I think though it was the last great. Like it's funny. Like you look at comics today, and what I call the revolution of comics. It's no longer about being that towering. I had this conversation with another guest. It's no longer about that towering bestseller in a big company. It's the fact that there's all these like niches on crowdfunding, Kickstarter, and all, not even just there, like Image, Boom, Dark Horse. Like comics have gone wide.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, right? And they don't have, I think, the big hits they did in the '90s, but there's still like a hungry audience. And I think the last time that they went broad like that was for the big companies was that time, right? And I could be wrong, because I think 94 through 97 was good, but 98 Marvel went, and the comics have kind of gone on like a little awkward up and down road ever since.
Yeah.
But I just think about that time in that era. Like, I mean, there's just a lot of good. I mean, creators are allowed to be bombastic, and today, creators are bombastic too.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think that a lot of times, especially in the late '90s, the early 2000s, companies tried to be a little bit more too concerned maybe about continuity and all that kind of stuff, which is important on some level. But I think with these characters, just tell good stories, just make sure the writers understand the heart of the characters, and that continuity stuff will work itself out. If every 10 years you have to have some kind of crisis thing to explain it all away or whatever. But really, quite honestly, as a reader of comics since I was 5 years old, I never really cared about continuity. I wanted to see how these characters reacted in different stories in different situations, in the grandiose things like you were talking about, but also like the very like grounded storylines also that you'd find in Captain America, that you'd find in probably not so much Superman tales, which was one that I really caught onto in my younger years, but like Spider-Man, you had a lot of those really, really like down to earth storylines and down to earth situations where you could see yourself in it. And I think that was something that the '90s did really, really well.
Yeah, actually, the other run that really kills me that I didn't get in the '90s that really, really hurt me. Mark Waid's Flash, and then like Jeff Johns' Flash. That was a run. Is like, you're good. Like, you were rolling. Right. I was like, oh, okay, I missed that.
It was a lot. I think they tried to do so much that on some level, for a lot of those reimaginings or kind of refocusing the story, it got away from them a little bit in some areas. I think that's the issue. I think with the New 52 now, that's not now. That was 5 years ago now, something like that. And then they just started the new thing. I don't remember what this new thing's called in the big boys, but I think that reimagining thing and trying to do that over and over and over again, I think is one of the things that maybe is hurting the big guys. And that the indies are really picking up the slack when it comes to coming up with stories that are down to earth, but fantastical, but also accessible to new readers.
Well, the great thing about being an independent is you can actually tell a full story. Here's the problem with like superheroes, like in general, for the last so many years.
We're not one of them. Is that the problem with superheroes? That we're not them?
That's part of it. Listen, super speed and flight, I'd be down in a heartbeat, man. I would totally be down. Yeah, totally be down in like a heartbeat to that stuff. But
somebody asked me a couple of weeks ago what superpower I would want, and I landed on shapeshifter.
For me, no, I'm serious. Power ring. Like, I want a power ring. Like,
that's great.
Yeah. Dude, listen, I'm an imaginative, crazy SOB. If I had a power ring, man, I'd go crazy. Like,
that'd be awesome.
Yeah, well, sometimes
I interrupted your point. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No, it's all good. It's all good. This is our conversations go. We go everywhere, right? That's the thing.
Sure.
But the thing is, like, superheroes are perpetually stuck in Act 2. I think what the appeal, like, say, of Spider-Man at the very beginning was the fact that he grew up, he got different, he got older. But once he got married, they stopped. Right? They stopped. And I honestly think that's kind of too bad, because I think the one thing that's shown is like the concept of Spider-Man is a universal appeal in not just comics, but every kind of literature out there, right? So, but superheroes, because it's soap opera. Let's be honest. It's soap opera. Yeah. You want to continue month in, month out, month in, month out. You very rarely get a actual Act 3 payoff, right? You don't get that very often. I think so. Going back to that age-old, remember when I'm old? I'm a comic nerd. Shut up. Kurt Swan and Alan Moore doing Whatever Happened to the Man of Tomorrow. That 100%. Is one of the best Superman stories ever. It's also one of the only Act 3s ever.
Yeah. Closes that door, you close that door, and you know the story's done.
Yeah.
Right? And the last page of Superman, closing that door. Oh, okay. Where do we go now?
Yeah.
Crisis, right? Crisis is where they go.
Well, yeah, but it was a reward too, right? anyone that had been part of that run up until that point got the reward. You who have read this from beginning to end, here you go. You worked through this. We'll give you an ending that was really fun, and it's a great ending. It's a great ending to a good story, right?
So much heart, so much heart in it.
Oh yeah, and well, because Superman can be cool. It does happen. It can be done, right?
I don't know if he ever wasn't cool. You know, a lot of people like Superman's not cool. Are you joking? He's exactly what I would want my heroes to be: bright and happy and positive. What more could anyone ask?
And modern Superman can be done well. Look at All-Star Superman, Grant Morrison, fantastic.
Yeah.
But I mean, Superman's a great concept. But the thing is, right? If there's no Act 3s, you can only go so far with all these characters. You can tell their story to a point, and that's it. It's done, and you have to move on. Indie comics, you can have an Act 1, you can have an Act 2, you can have an Act 3, and you get a payoff, right? You get a payoff, right? In one sense, creatively, although you all want this on a business level, right? Being a hit might actually extend this story you had worked on. It's like Act 1, Act 2 is like, oh my gosh, I sold a whole many copies. What do I do? Right? That's a great problem to have. But but creatively speaking, right? It's natural. You become successful at something. People want to see more of that something. And so you come up with new ways to see that something. And that's perfectly, like, on a business level, it makes a ton of sense. Yeah. But from a creative level, not always the best thing. It just like sometimes you got too much of a good thing.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, it's with, like you were saying, to your point, that superheroes, they can't, Superman, Batman, they can't. They try, like, again in the '90s, they shook it up a little bit, but then it went just right back to the status quo after they shook it up. So having characters that cannot grow and change too much in the span of whatever thing they're trying to go through. It definitely is, from a writing standpoint, makes it more difficult to be able to show stakes, to be able to have the readers really latch onto the character. Like you were saying, when Spider-Man got married, a lot of that fan base was like, married, so he's my dad now, kind of a situation, to where we grew up with him getting married was a normal, natural step. But then for a 5-year-old, seeing a Spider-Man that we grew up with as a teenager being married and having those kind of problems wasn't easy to relate to, I think. No. On some level. So bringing it back to, and no matter how they did it, you were going to get pushback on it. But those kind of storylines where they bring it back to the status quo is always going to create those little issues, those little problems, on some level, fun problems.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Like I mean, there's something to be said for the old formula, like Ultimate Spider-Man. Literally, it was Bendis reimagining Spider-Man for the modern day, at least at the time, and Peter Parker as Spider-Man for the modern day, and it was a great book. Yeah, but it was a simplified Spider-Man concept. You didn't have to worry about continuity. You could take it in different directions, and he was very true to the character too, which was awesome. I actually thought killing Peter was actually one of the bravest things he did in that run, because you could.
I agree that Miles Morales was probably the best thing that came out of that run. He's a great character. He's a great continuation of the Spider-Man mythos, or addition to the Spider-Man mythos, that I think could continue to last as long as Peter does.
Oh, absolutely, and it also opened the possibility that other people can be Spider-Man, which honestly fits from the mythos of it, Spider-Man and characters like Spider-Man, even Kyle Rayner to some degrees of this arc too. They're pretty much personal narratives. Reason why you have a narrative where a character doesn't know what he's doing and he's learning as he's going, it's easy for the audience to relate to, because if I don't know what's going on and you don't know what's going on, well, we got something in common at least, right? There's a bonding moment right there. So when they're like, surprise, you're like, surprise with them, because it's an easy relation to it, right? And Spider-Man, there's always that sense of discovery and figuring out what it is to become a hero. Kyle was that for me as well, growing up, because he had that same wonder for a very long time. Yeah. And now, I mean, but once you become that hero, where do you go from there? Yeah. And that's where the kind of the story ends maybe for him, and maybe you continue it with Spider-Gwen or Miles
Mhm.
Morales, or
Mhm.
and you can do that, and you can tell a different story.
Mhm.
Like I think from a franchise standpoint, the most brilliant thing I've ever seen is Doctor Who.
Mhm.
I think Doctor Who is brilliant in the sense that you can have it both ways. In that you can have a character come in, go through an act one, an act two, and an act three, and
Mhm.
then you can start all over again, and you just change the twists and turns along the way as you do it. And I think
Yeah.
that's actually one of the like the reason why Doctor Who has stuck around for so long on television is because it never gets old. The characters are there 2-3 years. You get
Yeah.
a great little story, and people, you know what? If that's the story you want to get, you'll get your payoff,
Mhm.
and then you can move on. Or, which probably was happening because you get such a rewarding payoff, you'll come
Mhm.
back to see what the next guy does,
Yep.
and the next thing. And I think that's actually brilliant. I honestly think comics could learn from that quite a
Sure.
bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree. I think that I think the problem with that, though, especially with the big boys, is that the studio doesn't want to lose the cash cow of knowing the one that works. You know what I mean? Like when they tried
Oh,
to
sure.
bring in the new Batman. I can't remember who was Azrael. I can't remember his name, his real name, Jean Paul, something like that. It's again got a lot of backlash, but it was something that sparked a lot of interest
Yeah.
in this new armor and this new whatever. But I don't even know what that character is doing now. Is he still Azrael? Is he still in the DCU? I don't know. So it's that hope of, let's see if we can have lightning strike twice, and when it doesn't, it just gets pushed back to the wayside. But I agree that Doctor Who does that really well, where it's the continuous, it's a story, new guy, story, new guy, no story, new gal, whatever it is. I think
Yeah,
I
exactly.
think
Like,
it's a great model. It's a
yeah,
great model.
I think it's one like if you're going to create a franchise that lasts, that's the best
Hmm.
way to do it because it
Hmm.
never feels old. And
Yeah.
even if you lose fans for a little while, they'll come back eventually because it's like, okay, maybe that Doctor wasn't for me,
Hmm.
but the next one might be,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
think that's a really really brilliant way of storytelling. But like I said, going to like an indie comic like Saga. Oh, but I can't wait. I hope one day the rest of that comes out because that cliffhanger was evil. That was evil, right? But Brian K. Vaughan, you know,
Hmm.
Fiona Avery, yeah, please finish. But
Yeah.
that all said, right? Or Fiona
Hmm.
Staples. Sorry, Fiona Staples. I get the name right. Or she might beat me. But
Jean
it's
Paul Valley.
there. There you go.
Got it.
Hey, names. You got
We
it.
did it. We did
Yes.
it.
But when you look at the fact that you have your own property, you have a sense of where it starts, you have a sense of where it ends. You might
Hmm.
leave some wiggle room for how long you tell the story,
Yeah.
but you're going to tell a story, and
Yeah.
people are going to say that's great. And it's also a big boon for you for another big reason too,
Hmm.
because you never know where any of this stuff goes. If you tell a full story start to finish,
Hmm.
and you prove that you can do that, you can do that for the big two.
Yeah.
You could do that for Hollywood. You
Hmm.
could do that for television. You could do that for video game. I don't know what your ultimate world domination plans are, but hey, listen, we all got them. I have my own. It's all good, right?
Yeah.
So, but the thing about that is, you have to think in those terms because
Hmm.
one of the most professional things you can have and prove that you can do whatever it is you set your mind to
Hmm.
is finish the project.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I definitely, when I started my ongoing series, The Offspring,
Mm-hmm.
which actually issue 15 just came out today.
High five.
I'm super excited about it,
Yeah.
man. I'm so stoked about the continuing progression of the story and these characters. I could not be more happy. And I'm gonna throw a shout out here to our colors, who started with issue 14. and did a couple covers for me, but then started with issue 14. It's beyond my wildest dreams as the 15-year-old that came up with this concept for this book to look as great as it does. But that's one of the reasons why, while I was doing the ongoing series of The Offspring, that I started putting out one-shots also, 24-page one-shots, because I had so many other stories. And I'm like, should I make it a 4-issue miniseries? Should I make it a 100+ page graphic novel? What should I do? And I thought, I can make these 24-page stories that are self-contained stories, but have so much more underneath all of it, that if one of them does take off, if people want to see more with certain characters, there's so much more there that I could take these 24 pages and I could turn it into a 4-issue miniseries or a 100-page graphic novel, or take these characters into different stories and different adventures to be able to continue telling stories with the same characters, even though the 24-page graphic novel is meant to be a one-shot enjoyed on itself. It has so much room to grow, and that was one of the things I really wanted to do with my 24-page one-shots, and I'm getting a lot of great feedback from people who are reading them.
Yeah, no, because it's also the thing is it's a low risk investment for everybody involved, you and them, because it's like, well, I'm reading a story. If I hate it, I only spent 10, 12 minutes of my life reading it.
Yeah.
If I like it and want more, I can go, please, Mr. David, can you please do more, right?
That'll be the day that I'll feel like a winner if somebody begs me to write another story.
It'll come. I mean, it's one of those, like, knock on wood. I mean, I think conventions are going to be at least back in the States at some point this year, right?
I have one scheduled in August.
Yeah.
So we're good. Yeah. We're getting there.
Yeah. So I mean, you're going to be going out into public again and doing things again, and so what's going on is you'll get that interaction, and you get to meet people, and you'll get to. So my personal favorite con story, because I did a comic a long time ago with a friend of mine, and I remember I was on my last copy, and I remember this like little girl came by with her step parents and did one book with them before, but it was my last one, so I figured, you know what, just have it, don't worry about it, all right?
Nice.
Yeah, right. It's my last one. I'm not gonna cry. I mean, but it's right. And anyway, the next day I come back and say, oh, that really meant a lot to her. Thank you very much. And those are things that you remember when you do shows. Those are the cool moments you are part of, and it's just like, hey, I did a good thing, and it makes me feel good, and that's what you do, right? You tend to, those are the things we go for at conventions, and eventually someone comes to you and they start, I really liked your stories, I really did this, I really did that, and it's also, it's like, next thing you know, you have a fandom, and you'll wonder how that happened.
Slowly but surely it happens. I mean, if you just keep plugging away, and you feel confident in your abilities and confident in the story that you're telling, I think anybody who has the drive to be able to do it can do it, given the right, I was about to say education, but I don't know if that's the right word, given the right drive and experience and want. And I think that's one of the reasons why also I became a teacher. I had a conversation with some of my students today. We had finished, which never happens. We had finished 5 minutes early, the project 5 minutes early, which never happens. So the kids and I were just sitting talking, which is something I don't always get a chance to do with some of my students, just because we're such a small amount of time that I get to see them in a school day. And we were just talking, and somewhere along the line, they were asking me about comics. And I, showed them a couple drawings here and there, and they looked at me and goes, "When can we learn how to do that?" And I looked at them and I said, "We learn how to do this every day. This is what I'm teaching you how to do. It might not be 100% comic books, but everything that I'm teaching you, every element of art, line, shape, form, value, texture, color, space, are used in comic books, and they're what you use to be able to build any kind of artwork you have." So I think that 2 or 3 of them, where it didn't quite connect with them 100% before that, kind of shot up and said, we're learning how to do that? Wow, awesome. And it was quite honestly, it was a good day.
It's great, because
it was a good 5 minutes.
Well, that's why you teach. I mean, if we're really being honest, like, not to disrespect your expertise and your knowledge and subject matter at all, but let's be honest, today, especially today, if I want to learn how to do something, there's this wonderful thing called YouTube University. I can go on there and I can learn at basic how to for like little technical bits of knowledge, right? What you give is more valuable than the knowledge you teach. What you're giving people, if ideally you're giving students the confidence, the imagination, and the belief that they can do anything they set their mind to, right? That's what a teacher's supposed to do.
Hopefully, on a good day. Yeah.
On a good day, yeah.
On a good day.
But those are the best teachers. Like, I don't know. It's like I was very fortunate for most of the teachers I had. Some of them not so much, but I mean, for the most part, though, I was really, really fortunate. I had teachers that cared and saw that I wanted to do things, and they encouraged me to do them. But that's what teachers are there for. It gives you permission to show what is possible if it's done correctly, and that's your real job. Right. Yeah. I mean, the other stuff. Yeah. I mean, it's what a curriculum says you need to do, and I'm not saying it's invaluable, because it certainly is, but it's more about like telling people, it's like, I believe in you, so that when I am gone, you believe in yourself enough that you can make this possible.
Yeah, I tell the kids all the time, it's not about, I tell my kids all the time, my actual children, my children that I am the father of, that school is not about memorizing a whole bunch of facts. School is about learning how to learn, learning what you love to learn, and hoping that you can go out and find that for yourself. And if you have a positive attitude, and if you have people that around you that have you surround yourself with people who have positive attitudes, whatever you want to do is what you'll do. I also tell my kids that teachers are like bosses. You're going to have some that you love. You're going to have some that they're just okay. And then you're going to have some that you hate. But it doesn't mean that they can't do the job for you. They can't give you something to be able to help you grow.
Yeah, well, you can learn from everybody, right? Sometimes you're around people you don't like because sometimes there are things about yourself in them that you see that you're just like, I have a problem. I need to take care of my own shit. I mean, right? And that's just an honest like assessment.
Normal.
Yeah.
Normal.
Yeah. Sometimes though, I mean, but even with the silliest stuff, right? Even with the silliest stuff, with people you like, there's always an opportunity to learn something, right? And you just have to at some point just roll with it and learn to roll with it, and that's a big part of it. I'm sure there are students you had that you're like, why are you in my room? But they taught you something. They taught you something as much as you taught them. And then there are other students you're like, oh my god, you guys are awesome. Please never leave. You're why I teach.
Yeah, 100%. Right?
Yeah. So I think the 3 criteria for success is, let's see if you agree with this. Believe in yourself.
Yep.
A willingness to show up.
Yep.
Right. And being
beer is the third one. Beer.
No, that's bonus.
That could be like 3.1.
Are we talking American beer or like Canadian beer? Because there's
whatever you got, man.
It's not strong.
Yeah.
Most of your beers aren't strong. Now some of them, like your hard liquor's good. Your beer, but it depends on what we define.
When you're done drawing and writing, the hard liquor's okay.
Yeah, hard liquor's fine.
So I interrupted you again. What's your third one?
Third one, show up with being unafraid of both success and failure. I think success is more terrifying than failure is more often than not.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. You learn so much from falling down. You learn so much from failing that you can't help but get better at what it is you're doing if you continue to do those 2 things that you were talking about at the first 2 there. If you continue to do those things, no matter how many times you fall down, you'll eventually be successful if you get back up and keep trugging along and doing what you're doing. At the beginning of me starting my publisher company, Correct Handed Comics, it was pulling teeth like I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought I was ready for this, but I don't know if I'm quite ready for this. But I kept on trucking forward and just continuing to move forward, and I still learn something new every day from other professionals, from just sitting down and trying to figure out whatever the problem is by myself, and growing as an artist and a writer.
So, what's the hard? What was the scariest thing for you that you really didn't realize? You had no clue what you were doing on?
I think that once I decided to self-publish, I think the scariest part for me was not trying to be my own worst critic. To put things out that I knew that I liked, that I put my heart into, that I really enjoyed, things that I knew I would enjoy reading, but not looking at every panel and every line and saying I can do that better. Doing that from time to time, because there's always, every artist looks at a panel, go, I can do that panel later. I can do that panel better. Let me put that one aside and let me go to some other stuff, and I'll come back to that one. But not drawing a line and erasing it and drawing a line and erasing it, like that kind of struggle to be able to, for perfection, that artists and writers and everybody on some level has, being able to let go and know that what I was putting out was good and entertaining, and something that I knew that I wanted to read, and hoping that other people will want to read it also.
An amateur seeks perfection. A professional gets it done. A friend of mine says that.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, it sounds about right, right? No, so I started drawing about, it's almost 5 months now since I've started drawing.
Nice.
I'm almost competent, almost, right? But my biggest fear, that held me back for years, was what if it's bad? And then I had a wonderful thought. So what if it's bad? Have fun. And suddenly it's easy now. I'm doing my first sequentials in a actual prose novel. It's actually, I'm doing like a Twitch stream. It's going to be like 8-bit Zelda, a homage to 8-bit Zelda in the background, and all the dialogue will be on like the right side, like you would on a typical stream. Nice. And I'm terrified, but like in like the best kind of ways. Like I don't know what I'm doing.
If you weren't terrified, you're not doing it right.
Well, actually, in this case, it's that terror of you're about to go skydiving, and you realize that you have no idea what to expect. Like there's nothing in your head that can prepare you for this. Like there's nothing. You're like, you're just gonna do it, and one of two things is gonna happen: the chute's gonna open or it's not, right?
Yeah. At that point, it's out of your hands.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of is. So it's just like, I'm gonna be drawing this. Like, is this good? Now, obviously, I'm gonna put a little bit more effort than just pulling a ripcord, right? Sure. Right. But that'll say is, I know, like, it's gonna be my first time. It's gonna be like learning about doing it, but it's also gonna be a great experience for me because I'm gonna learn how to do a sequential story, even if it's just a tiny one inside of an actual novel.
Yeah, that first one is like that first story that you write, or work that you publish, no matter what it is. I like to say it's akin to riding your first roller coaster. You're terrified and you're excited and you're scared, and you think it's forever to get there, and then once you get there, when it's done, you're like, let's do it again.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Or even if I never do it again, you know what's cool? I did it.
You did it.
That's it. That's it. It's better. It's better to finish a task and kind of see where it takes you. Mm-hmm. I'm constantly surprised where things go, and I learned a very important lesson. Like, I don't really think failure exists.
That what exists? I'm sorry.
Failure. I don't really believe failure truly exists. I may not get the result you intend, but it all leads somewhere. Weirdly enough, it all just seems to go where it's supposed to go, and it's like, okay, that's cool.
Every mistake you make leads you to where you are, and if you like where you are, it doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And even if you don't like where you are, eventually, hopefully, you'll get where you like to be after or later.
Yeah. So I've told the story on my air before, but I think you'll dig this. I accidentally wrote and got my first book like published traditionally. It was all entirely by accident. Right. I accidentally wrote a book.
You tripped into a publisher? You tripped into a printer? Sort of, kind of.
I think you'll appreciate this. This is a great example. So I want to do like a longer poem. I did a poetry collection in my 20s, 30s. I just was getting back into things again. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a longer poem. So I came up with this idea of this boy in the watchtower, and I was like, I like this. But what happens next? Again, no plan. So he goes and he kills his dragon master. It's like, okay, I gotta know what happens next. It's his first night alone in the woods after he just killed somebody. It's like, okay, I need to keep going from here. This is good. So I wrote chapter 4. It's all in poetry, by the way. I wrote chapter 5. I wrote chapter 6, and I realized that chapter 6. This is my poetry collection. I don't know what this is exactly, but I stumbled on this and I gotta finish this, wherever this goes. Just finished it. Hired someone to draw stuff I couldn't draw, and she was great. Florence Chan's awesome.
Awesome.
And my master plan was to do a Smashwords book and publish like print editions at shows. Sure. That was my plan. So I've been interviewing people for years. Someone I interviewed actually bought my book on Smashwords when it came out. And she goes, "This is really cool. What are you going to do with it?" And I said, "I just told you." She goes, "Well, I just got to deal with Ingram Spark. I'm starting a publishing house. I'll publish your book."
Nice.
You never know where things lead you.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. You never know that next contact, that next person that you smile to or say hello to or talk to about comics or whatever it is. You never know where it's going to lead. I mean, it's one of those funny things that you never know where your next fan is going to come from. You never know where your next boss is going to come from. Your next commission is going to come from. It's a fun situation and industry to be in that way.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how you accidentally do it, by the way.
Yep.
I tripped.
You tripped and fell into a publisher. That's awesome.
Yeah, but as far as you go, how many books have you done on your
own? So let's see, 15 issues of The Offspring. Let's see, 4 one-shots, each in different genres, all written and drawn by me. Offspring is all written and drawn by me. I've got a colorist now, Chris McCauley, who is amazing, works with Boom Studios. He works with a lot of Bram Stoker stuff for Dracula, and has worked with Disney on Mandalorian stuff. He did some drawings for costume designs for Mandalorian. Amazing colors. I have, let's see, a 100+ page graphic novel called The Loved Ones. I have a novel that I wrote, a Western that I wrote called The Last Ride to Tyburn. And I have a 4-issue miniseries called Evolution Utero that is my closest, I guess, the closest thing I have to a traditional superhero story, but the superhero in the story is not born yet.
Yeah. That's cool.
And I'm working on right now my next one-shot. I just, like I said, issue 15 was published today. So I am about 10 pages into my next one-shot with a buddy of mine from the Everything Horror podcast, Paul Dolsky, who helped me write. I wanted to do a very traditional like thrasher genre, like Jason, Freddy, Michael Myers, that kind of stuff. But I wanted a different kind of setting and a different kind of killer. So I had this idea for a female killer. And she is from the 50s and dressed in like sock hop attire, like the poodle skirt, and she's got a great mask, and it's essentially just a thrasher with a couple twists and stuff in there to be different. I don't just want to do all the same tropes. I want to do something a little different, but that's hopefully coming out in the next 3 weeks, called The Sock Hop Killer. So we're moving along faster and faster and faster every day. It's awesome.
So you've finally built a little universe for yourself. It sounds like you've been doing that. How are you doing this?
Unintentionally, it's starting to become a nice fleshed out universe, and I really just started off going, I want to tell some cool stories, and before I knew it, I had a plethora of different genres and different titles and different characters and different stories that I've enjoyed telling, and I'm nowhere near done. It's been awesome.
So you got a cool wall up there. So I'm going to ask this one, because there had to be a book that makes say I wanted to do this. There had to be a book. Is it up there?
It actually is. Well, that's not 100% true. The Captain America No More storyline was one that I took when we were kids. We would drive to, Disney, or we would drive to wherever we're going as a family, and that run was the run that I would bring every single time to read it and reread it over and over and over again. And by the time I was done, the book, this is the second copy that I've owned because the books were just torn apart because I had read them so from cover to cover so many times. And I would say that was one of the first real like story arcs that I wanted to dive into to really understand the characters and the story structure and the story, the art and the way that the characterization of each story and the motivations of all the stories. I would say that's probably the first one that I really started diving into. I read a lot of, as a kid, this is gonna sound funny, but I read a lot of Archie comics.
Okay.
Kid. And I love the there's not really big overarching stories. It's a lot of one shot funny things, but the way the characters stayed true to themselves throughout what's been 50 years of Archie comics and Betty and Veronica and Jughead and Mr. Weatherby and all those guys, and how they changed and grew with the times, but the essence of the character didn't change. The characters did not change. Was something that I always really enjoyed about those early Archie comics in the late 70s, early 80s. They really stuck with me as a kid.
Well, no, the Archie books are underrated. Right.
Yeah, 100%
yeah, some of them are quite underrated, actually. There's I mean, they've kind of gotten a bit of a small revival in the last little bit. But if I were to buy like the old like digest, I remember them like even today you can still go to the supermarket and you'll still see them every once in a while, and you'll be like, "Oh, this is cool." And then you would look in there. Now at this point, it's mostly reprints. Like I read this before. Oh God, I'm old. I've read all these before. Right? But
yeah.
But no, like it's amazing what sticks with you. Yeah. I mean, one of your books is definitely up there that inspired me. We already talked about it. Oh yeah, the Green Lantern stuff.
The Green Lantern one.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what I grew up reading. So I mean, that's definitely up there. So. But I always wonder, because there's always that moment where we all make that say, I'm going to do this. I'm going to take this leap. I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So what came first for you, like the art or the writing?
I'm always an artist first. The art always comes first. So whenever I'm coming up with a story or trying to come up with an idea for, a lot of times for the one shots especially, I'll just be sitting there and something will pop in my brain, and I will, whether it's a title or whether it's a character idea or whether it's just a scene that I would like to, either beginning or ending or middle of the story that I would like to see drawn, and then I wrap a story around that. But art always comes first for me. I'm always an artist first. But I will say that as I've started this self-publishing and really started to I think grow as a writer, that the one-shots have been a big what's the word I'm looking for? I don't want to say a big help, but a big release for me as a writer and a creator, to be able to get out those like we talked about, those quick stories, while they do have a beginning, middle, and end, to have a little bit more meat to them, or a little bit something different than what you'd see from other, especially the big boys from other publishers. So I think that while the art is always number one for me, the first thing that I go to in my brain, the writing, I think, has become such a different kind of passion for me, to be able to say, when I started my novel, The Last Ride to Tyburn, it's been out for about 5 or 6 years now, and I really started it just to see if I could do it, just to see if I could write a novel. I knew I had a good solid story, good solid characters, good solid arcs, good solid ending, but I wanted to see if I could hold it all together, and I think I did. I think I held it all together. It's a fun read. It's not Fahrenheit 451 or Johnny Gators Gun or anything like that. It's not going to change the world, but I think it's a good solid story with good solid characters. That's a fun read, and that's really all I want to do. Good solid characters, fun stories, fun read. They walk away, whoever read it, enjoying what I put out.
So there's a couple ways we could go with this. So I think the cool thing about you doing the short comics is I think they force you to learn nuance. Because I think, and this is something as a novelist, this took me a long time to really sink in on. It's what you don't say that's probably as important as what you do say. It's what's between the gutters.
Yeah.
That's actually telling the story, right? because what comics ultimately do, the way they create the cool hallucination in our head is they make you imagine time moving forward or backward, depending on what your goal is.
Yeah.
And so when you have only 24 pages to play, it's like I gotta make every one of these pages count. Every one of these panels gotta mean something. And you're probably like, well, I gotta put like 2 or 3 things in here that even though they may not seem like much, they're gonna connect everything to the story overall. Is that about right?
Yeah, 100%. I think that nowadays, especially, readers are smart. You don't need to spell everything out for them. They'll get it. There's been enough of any kind of story, every kind of story, that that you can create that nuance that you were talking about, but also give backstory, but it doesn't have to be shoved down anybody's throat. You can give little bits of character, little bits of story arc, little bits of background without 24 pages of this is where this character came from, right? Even things just, if speaking of background, even things just in the background can tell a reader a little bit more about what's going on, a little bit more about the character, a little bit more about the story that maybe nobody says it out loud. There's no narration, there's no word balloons that say anything out loud, but if a reader is really paying attention, the background can help tell the story. And I think that's one thing that I really love doing in the 24, even in the Offspring, from issue 1 through issue 15. I try to put little things in the background that as it starts to move forward, if people read the whole run, they'll look at issue 20, that's 5 issues away, but I've got it planned already, issue 20, and say, oh wait, we saw something for that in issue 4. So those little things that I try to put in to be able to show people that I've got a whole plan. I'm going to 50. Come hell or high water, there's 50 issues and this story is going to be told, and they're going to be able to see the progression of oh, he did have a plan because he mentioned this in issue 5, and now we're finally seeing it in issue 25. Or we saw, this character who just kind of got plopped in issue 10, but now we're seeing them again, and they're getting a story arc in issue 13 or whatever it was. And I think that's a really fun thing for me to do as an artist, as a writer. I love doing that.
That's like an old trick, actually. It's a very old trick. I like back in our day, or something to that effect anyway.
Yeah.
We would read comics that would just create, short term like these tell their stories, but they always have these like little pieces on the inside where it'd be like, okay, why are they mentioning this? And then an issue later, you might see another little development here. Nothing big, but just little things that indicate that, hey, I got a story in the background that's kind of brewing here somewhere, somehow, some way.
Yeah.
It's going to come to the forefront at some point, and then it's like, and then that's it, right?
There it is.
Right. So, and it's old school. So one of my quote unquote more recent runs that I really, really dug was Paul Dini's Detective Comics run.
Yeah.
He did say, like, he'd tell these like one and done stories, like you're kind of mentioning here, and he would put in like these little things that would just play out later on. You're like, okay, I love this. It's old school storytelling, but it still works so well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I've read any of that run, but I like Paul Dini. I like his. Clearly, he's great. He knows what he's doing. And most of the stories that I've read from him have been amazing.
So okay, so we mentioned off the air a few people. So who were your quote unquote influences? This is probably the unoriginal question I've asked you the whole episode.
I think that as a writer and an artist, it's hard not to be influenced by both. I would say that a lot of my darker aspects of my style come from, like, it's a little cliche, like Frank Miller, things like that. Like, for artists that you're gonna see, Dan Jurgens is a huge influence on me as a writer and an artist.
He's criminally underrated.
I 100% agree with you. I think his characters that he's created, the stories that he's written through, like Booster Gold is an underrated character. I think the idea of somebody stealing things and coming back from the future and coming back to the past to be a hero is something that never was really talked about. He's a thief, who came back to be a hero to make money on being a hero, and it just gets kind of washed away on some level. There was little things that talked about it here and there, but I think that kind of character really hasn't reached Michael Carter, I believe is his real name, hasn't really reached its full potential. And to be able to but to have somebody like that, when in the early 90s, who did the Superman Death of Superman storyline, was somebody, a writer and an artist and creator who I looked at and said, oh, I can do both. I don't just have to be an artist. I can be a writer also. And that's one thing also that really did propel me into saying, oh, I better start learning how to write really quick, because I want to be able to do both. I want to be able to tell these stories and not have to worry about communicating to a writer what I want to do in these stories. I just want to be able to do it myself. And that was a big influence on me as a blah 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 teenage something kid in the early 90s, to be able to see that from another artist was amazing.
No, Dan's very good. My quiet little stuff that I really enjoyed from him was his Solar Man, the Atom Run.
Oh yeah.
It's like, it's a quiet thing. It's definitely not his absolute best work, but it was fun to see him play in another sandbox for a while. I mean, he's really good. Like, he's done a lot of great things. I have always considered him like he's solid. He always delivers a good story, regardless of whether he's writing or drawing it. He always delivers a good story.
I agree.
Yeah. So, what's your favorite thing to draw?
Gosh, I would say that my favorite thing to draw is, just in general, is people.
Okay.
As a kid, I was so lucky as a kid. Let me tell you how lucky I was. I had parents who not only supported me as an artist, knew that that's what I wanted to do from the second I picked up a pencil, but also as a young kid, as a 12, 13, 14-year-old, putting me in art classes that weren't in school, paying for it, not having a lot of money, but paying for these opportunities for me as a young teenager to be able to go to nude figure drawing classes, and them knowing that it wasn't just a teenager wanting to see naked people, but it was for a solid reason, to gain a solid understanding of something that I knew I could do, and wanted to do it better and do it the best I possibly could. The fact that my parents let me, as a 13, 14-year-old, go to these nude figure drawing classes and knew that I wasn't doing it just to be a crazy teenager, but because it was something that I knew I wanted to do, I give them all the credit in the world for the success that I've had as a teacher, as a writer, as a father, as a person. To be able to have that kind of faith in me and my abilities was amazing, and it really propelled me forward to be able, and I still do nude figure drawing classes to this day. I can't get enough of them. I don't do as much as I'd want to, but if I see nude figure drawing classes happening at an annex or at a community college that I can go to, I'll go do it. And I think that those lessons and those times where I would just sit with a piece of chalk and a piece of paper and draw the person in front of me was invaluable to me as an artist and a storyteller.
And for those listening or watching, it's really interesting when you're around nudity. At first, it hits you, and then you get used to it. You just get completely used to it. Yeah, it becomes
under our clothes, we're all naked.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's just what it is. And people that go and pose. I mean, everybody's got distinct shapes and feels, and honestly, it makes you a better. Like, at some point, I'm going to get an anatomy book, because honestly, I gotta tell you, like, the hardest thing I'm learning to draw. I hate to say it, it's true. I boobs kicked my ass for like 2 months.
They can be tricky. Yeah, I think that the figure drawing classes too are invaluable, because it's not all superhero dudes and superhero gals. It's not perfect bodies. It's older people. It's bigger people. It's smaller people. It's every single kind of person that you would want to see, or that is in the world. I've probably drawn them. I had a quick story. I had a buddy of mine who was not an artist. This was 20 years ago, 22, 25 year, gosh, at this point, 25 years ago. And I was taking nude figure classes at the community college just for fun, just for my own enjoyment. So he asked me what I was doing. Then I've got a nude figure drawing class I'm taking at the community college. And he goes, "What do you mean?" And I said, "What do you mean? What do I mean?" He goes, "You're drawing naked people?" And I said, "Yeah. I'm an artist, man. You've never seen artists draw naked people?" He goes, "But they're like naked?" I go, "Yes, man. The human figure. It's been drawn by artists for a millennia." And I do, and he looks at me and goes, "Guys too?" I said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, man. Guys too. Like I don't like I need to learn how I need to know how to draw it all. So it's it all. So it's men too." And he goes, "Oh, I don't know if I could do that." I'm like, "Well, you're not an artist, so there you go." But yeah, that's that aspect that the people I like to call normals that aren't artists that don't really quite understand, don't really quite have the not understand, that's the wrong word, that don't have that don't see the world the way that artists see the world, which for good or bad, for better or for worse, is lost on a good number of the population. I think that's one of the reasons why the arts gets kind of lost in the shuffle, because people don't understand the impact that the arts have on their daily life. And I don't think we could do a good job of I try in my classroom, but I don't think as a whole, as a society world, we teach we teach it to its full impact for young kids to be able to grow up to be lifelong learners and to be adults who appreciate art and it's all of its forms and how it impacts us every single day.
We tend to crush imagination as we get older.
We do.
That tends to be the concept of the real world. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't know what the real world is. If you can tell me what that is,
I don't know.
Probably, yeah, I don't know either.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, like, at some point we're told you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this, and tell enough people, and this is just it's a confidence thing to some degree. I mean, I'm certainly not the sanest guy usually in the room. I'm good with that, right? I'm very good with that.
That's great. I'd rather not be.
Yeah. I'm very much, why not? Let's just do it and see what happens, right? Because I feel the worst you can tell me is no, and that's not a meh. I mean, if you tell me no, that's cool, man. I'm not going to be mad, right? I tried, right? So, but the thing about that is, right, is I still have a wild and crazy imagination. If anything, it's grown into like its own little monster somehow. I think that's just, but I think that's the nature of the world. Because I can imagine things, I see ideas and possibilities that not everybody does.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing. That's what artists do. Like with an artist, the other thing too is we undersell storytelling. Mm-hmm. And it's used everywhere. Like literally, you will walk down the street. What will you see? You will see a billboard advertising you to buy shit. The way it's colored, the way it's designed, the way it's all a story. But people realize that, it's all storytelling. You watch TV. Although the content is stinks, Fox News knows exactly what they're doing. Everything they do as a presentation is picture perfect storytelling. It's picture perfect.
Yeah. They know their audience and they know how to sell it.
Exactly. And you got to give the devil their due, but they are storytellers. Now their story is terrible and their content is vile, but is it from a business standpoint? You have to be able to give the devil their due. And that's just Fox. Sports shows. Everything we watch, everything we do, the storytelling is like the invisible hand that moves us all. We are all living a story. Like we were talking about the era, how history constantly tells the same story over and over and over and over and over again, for good or bad. And again, I don't have alcohol on me right now, so we won't go into that more. But the point is, like, we've been telling the same stories to each other for as long as we've been alive. And our fathers and moms did that. Our families have done that for generation and to generation. In some ways, we haven't changed at all. We all want to hear good stories, and I think if we put it in that perspective, I can even say it like commercials. They're the most important. They probably use storytelling more than anything else on the planet because no one wants to buy shit.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to buy that. Yeah,
I think I was 42 when I started looking at commercials and go, they're tricking me into buying stuff.
Yeah, that's right. That's what they do.
How dare they turn these commercials off?
It's like,
but they do it.
Except for that one. That one got me hooked. Damn it!
Yeah. Take my money.
Just the old Futurama. Shut up and take my money. It's like Futurama was a great show.
Love it.
But that's true. Like we use storytelling everywhere, but as a general rule of thumb, we've. You're a teacher. I guess I should ask. I'm going to ask this like honestly.
Sure.
How much is critical thinking being taught in schools these days? Knowledge is like beyond belief, but actual critical thinking.
For me, as an art teacher, I teach and try to say the words critical thinking to my students every single time I see them. Try to show them how art is used to not only help their critical thinking, but how they're using critical thinking to draw and do the things we're doing. But I do agree that we do not put enough emphasis in the education system, or at least in my 15 years as a teacher. And the obviously I've not been to every school and seen every teacher teach, but in my experience, we do not put enough focus on, one, letting kids and parents understand what critical thinking is, why it's important to our society, and why it's important to their success on a daily basis, and for them not to fall down rabbit holes of, I'm just going to use the word lies, of lies and misinformation. A lot of people think they know how to think, but oftentimes their logic gets skewed for whatever reason. It's not because those people are not smart. It's because they have not maybe clicked that little switch in their brain of how important critical thinking is and how to think critically about things that they see and hear.
I think the hardest thing for me to learn as to get older, and this, I know this is going to shock you when you hear this. The world doesn't revolve around me. I know it's a shock to us all, especially to me, but the world doesn't revolve around me.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, though, in all honesty, is we all are biased towards our own narratives, whatever
100%.
they are. It doesn't matter who we are.
100%.
We are all guilty of this. The challenge as people is what critical thinking ultimately is supposed to do is do two things. One, to be able to solve your own problems on your own. Knowledge is fantastic, right? There are kids today that make me think I'm going to be one of those special people in like 10 years. I don't know what's going on anymore, right? But also, it's also forming independent thoughts and ideas counter to necessarily what people are in there. It's one thing to be able to understand the thoughts and stories being told around you. It's another to be able to create your own. Exactly. And once you're able to do that, you can actually form an opinion about how the world works, how it's shaped, how it's designed, right? We talked about some stuff about the air. Agree with some, disagree with other parts of it, I know. But the thing is, it's original thoughts, right? These are mine, right? And vice versa. You have your own thoughts, your own ways. And here's the thing. I'm a big enough man to say this. I don't know everything. I could be wrong. And you know, sometimes, and especially sometimes, I really hope I'm wrong, right? But as a general rule of thumb, it takes a very big person to admit that this is true. I'm biased. I can be fooled. I can be misled. I can be deceived. I can be wrong. But because I know this, I can be more guarded against that stuff. Whether or not I'm still going to strike out sometimes.
Sure.
I'm always going to be a little bit of a sucker. I'm good with that. I understand. I understand that is a part of life. I'm not going to learn every trick under the sun. Now I'll learn more tricks as I get older, right? But sometimes I'm going to get suckered, and I'm good with that. But that's how you learn. And again, I'm willing to learn. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that a lot of times it's like you said, we all think on some level we're the center of the universe, but it really is the ability to see past your own nose.
Yeah.
On some level too, those critical thinking and problem solving skills, being able to see past your own nose. And as a writer, as an artist, it opens up. I tell the kids that art is not about drawing pretty pictures. You can do that with art, but it's not what it's about. Art is about seeing and understanding your world better, so that you can start to open up your world a little bit more, to be able to see the as a writer and an artist, it's about being able to see all the avenues that could be taken and being able to understand what the next step is. Okay, now where do we go from here? Okay, what's the next step? What's the next level that I have to get to with whatever it is I'm trying to do? And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, that next step is scary.
Yeah,
that can be very scary. That change, that step of change that we talked about, can be very scary. So people go, no, I'm good on this rung. I'm good on this rung, so I'm going to stop.
Sure.
I'm going to stop on this rung. This is my rung. You can go past me if you want to, but I'm staying right here, which I think, is a normal human reaction on a lot of levels.
Oh, sure.
But if too many people stay on that rung, the ladder's going to break.
Well, not only is the ladder going to break, it's going to sink. Even though the people around you are trying to go up too, because
it's going to get a clog.
Yeah,
people are going to be not be able to see the next step because, and I guess the other people are getting in the way.
Yeah, or at least they're very distracting. There's just lots
of distractions. Lots of distractions.
But I think the reason I asked is because I remember, because this again, because I'm old and shit, right? Is I remember in high school, critical thinking was still a big thing being taught back there. They were still teaching it, but they were slowly dwindling it out of the education system. Because again, it's an invisible thing. But that ability to think and do that also makes you independent. It gives you the ability to see things on your own terms. And again, you're not always going to be right, even with that lens. But the fact that you can see things in another lens gives you different ideas that you would never consider otherwise. But also, and I think this is what, going back to art, what art can teach is empathy.
Oh yeah.
Right.
100%.
Right.
Being able to see things from other people's perspective, being able to see that struggle that somebody else is going through that maybe you haven't been through, but you can see how it would affect you, the way that it's affecting them, and you can act or react accordingly. And hopefully that that action or reaction accordingly is kindness towards that person.
Oh, but you learn to understand. That's what ultimately empathy is about. It's not about, again, we don't have to agree on everything.
Yeah.
And honestly, that doesn't have to. Hey, listen, you know what? Do you have a sports team at all you're a fan of?
I grew up watching the Cincinnati Bengals.
Okay.
So it's been a lot of downs, not many ups, a lot of downs.
Okay, listen, I got you beat. I do got you beat.
Let's hear it.
Don't tell anybody. Detroit Lions.
Oh, yeah.
So
it's been a struggle for Detroit there.
Barry Sanders. I still remember when he played. That's how long it was when Detroit was scared.
Yep.
It's actually about like all due respect to Megatron and oh man, what's the current player? I just went to the Rams. It's really like they were good players. Just for whatever reason, Detroit just has never been a good team. Cincinnati, you got some hope. You actually have a good team. You're just in an evilly tough division now.
For the Redlegs,
yeah,
I agree. My brothers are huge baseball fans, and I constantly get updates from the Redlegs, whether I like it or not.
Yeah, and you're like, damn it.
I got it. Up in upstate New York, I don't ever get to stay. They rarely play. It's it's clearly the Mets or the Yankees, so I don't ever get to see any games anyway. So I'm like, update me all you want. It's great. I'm not putting any money on it.
Nope, not in a million years. I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah, not anymore. I learned my lesson the hard way.
Yeah. So, but that all said, right? And ultimately, this is like UK years. I mean, guys, don't hold it against me that much. It's just my family's there. It's the hometown thing.
Yeah.
I mean, inside of that
Yeah.
is Dallas Cowboys. No.
Yeah.
But,
There was an old not an old comedian, a comedian that had an old bit about sports teams, how you're essentially just rooting for a color of a jersey.
yeah, pretty much.
That's all. I mean, they switch teams so many times, and it's really where you grew up is what you're gonna like, regardless of whether they're good or not, regardless of whether it matters or not.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter.
That's
It's
pretty much
fun.
it. Yeah.
It's a good release.
Yeah.
I think that it's taken a lot of people take it very, very seriously. Which, if that's their thing, great. It's your thing. Take it seriously. Oftentimes, maybe to the detriment of society. Is that too far? Is that a bridge too far?
So this is what I would say. It depends on how you define the word religious. Now, I have let me explain this one.
Please.
Okay. I don't think religion necessarily has to be about a belief in God. Now, faith, like believing in God, is believing in God. Whatever you, God, Buddha, like whatever you believe or don't believe, is really your business. However, if you do, when a touchdown is scored, if the exact same thing happens every single time your home team scores a touchdown, on cue, right? One could make an argument that you're participating in a ceremony, and right, one really could, right?
Yeah,
and I would if you are just following a ritual for the sake of following a ritual, right?
Yeah.
Are you not religious? And I think I have a case. I could be wrong, but I think I have a case. So
hey, you convinced me. There's doctrine there.
Yeah.
There's ritual. There's a place of worship.
Yeah, no, it is. Whether it's the couch or the stadium, whatever you'd like, whatever you want, right?
You convinced me.
I mean, it really
They're
depends.
tax exempt, aren't they? On some level, tax exempt.
Oh, the NFL is, yeah.
On some level,
yeah. Oh yeah.
I think you just convinced me that sports are religion.
They can be, yeah. They can be. I think they can be. I'm not gonna say for every person it is, but for some people definitely. And so when you look at it from that perspective, yeah. If you look at it from the business, here's the advantage athletics have. If you look at athletics and art, they're not different. They're not that different when you think about it in terms of discipline. They're really not. It's the same thing. You show up, you do the practice, you put in the work, right? Whether it's with an athlete, it's working out. It's learning the foot, like the rituals. Rituals is the wrong word here. The choreography, the styles, the disciplines of whatever sport it is you play. That can be football to MMA to ballet. It doesn't matter. Sure. Speaking of which, ballet dancers are probably the biggest badasses on the planet.
Strongest people you'll ever meet.
Yeah.
Strongest people you'll ever meet, man.
Yeah, they're legit.
Oh yeah.
I would rather
Hands
fight.
down.
I would rather fight the football player than the ballerina.
Hands down.
Yeah. She'll destroy me. Like she will guarantee destroy me. But anyway, the point is, there's a lot of work that goes into those things. Dance is interesting because dance is almost like that merger of both art and athletics. It's a nice, interesting merger of the two. It actually is, especially ballet. If you look at ballet, it's storytelling. A lot of look at playing, like it's storytelling.
Oh yeah.
But you can physically see it, right? You can physically see it. The work to draw a picture, although drawing a picture is a little easy, might be the wrong word, but it's more visible for sure. Like whereas
there's a tangible thing at the end that stays.
Yeah, you can see it, right? Yeah. A book, like prose, that's harder to explain to people because it's like if you don't put in the work, you will never understand that discipline because a lot of it you just don't see.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think where athletics have a bit of an advantage, it's easier to look at an athletic person, specimen. It's the excellence is easier to see because honest to God, I don't care what athletics competition you get into, you're putting in some work, and honestly, and you should be applauded. That like pursuing excellence in any level is always to be admired.
Mhm.
But you can pursue that same level of excellence streaming, right, on Twitch, which is kind of what we're doing right now. You
Sure.
can pursue that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not as visible. It doesn't generate as much
Yeah.
money,
Mhm.
and sports have kind of crossed into the lines of like it's big money now. It's so because it's money.
Yeah.
So how do you make more money? You make people care about it more. How do you make people
Yeah.
like? I like listening to sports debate shows sometimes because they are absolutely, on one hand, they are the most terrible things that have ever come into existence
Yeah.
because it's about selling storylines of what's going on with, and even and athletes themselves buy into them sometimes.
Mhm. Mhm.
On the flip side, though, it makes sense. We as a species, we get obsessed over shit. It's what we do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like you got comics hanging on your wall. I
Yeah.
like back when I had a house that was mine. I had posters on my wall. I had things of art I like and I enjoy. I had books of
Mhm.
authors I love.
Mhm.
We all have things we obsess over.
Oh yeah.
I think that's healthy,
Yeah.
to a point at least,
Yeah.
right?
I agree with you. You
Yeah.
always have to have something that's going to be a release or something that you're going to enjoy, something that's going to bring you back to a place of yeah, my life is good. Look at all the cool stuff, or look at the cool stuff that I have seen in my life, not the cool stuff that I have, because it's not about having cool stuff, but it is about, for me anyway, but it is about having those memories. And having those experiences as an 80s, 70s, 80s kid, to be able to look back on fondly for, and hoping that my kids are having the same kind of, even though clearly it's not the same experience for kids growing up nowadays, but having similar experiences they will look back on fondly when they are old men like me.
Yes, that's right. That's what
Yeah.
we're going for. We're going for, right? So,
Yep.
to answer your question, yes. If you there are definitely parts of it. There are parts of it definitely that are
Hmm.
disturbing.
Hmm.
The thing is, like even arts, like in terms of an exhibition, in terms of showcase, it's
Hmm.
amazing to see the effort of pursuit of excellence is always something to be admired and applauded, no matter what your discipline is.
Hmm.
However, it can't be the only thing we're comfortable talking about.
Hmm.
That's when it gets troublesome. If all I can have a conversation with you about without offending you is, how about them Bengals?
Hmm.
Then we have serious communication issues in culture and
I
society,
agree.
and
I agree. Yeah.
we need to have that come to Jesus moment.
Yeah, and there are a lot of times where people will shut down a conversation because they think it'll get heated, or somebody's going to get mad, or somebody's going to walk away, and I think that is a very much a hindrance on us as a people moving forward, because the more you have those conversations, no matter what it's about, the more you
Yeah,
have those conversations, the more you'll get kind of used to hearing other opinions, whether they agree with you or slightly agree with you or don't agree with you at all. It's opinions don't hurt you, so getting mad about those opinions, or getting mad at somebody who completely 100% disagrees with everything you're saying, is not helpful. But having a conversation about it and saying, oh, it really helped me understand why you disagree, and I'll help you understand why I disagree with you, and let's see if we, even if we can't reach some kind of consensus, we can at least know that we can both exist and everything will be fine.
So ultimately, let's go back to something I just said earlier. I
Yeah.
know it was a shocking to me to know that I wasn't the center of the universe. It was one day I woke up and I realized there's
I'm
people out there.
I'm sure a lot of viewers had to write that down so they wouldn't forget.
I know. I know it was shocking. I realized my head, very big head,
Yeah.
had to say something,
It
but
had to come out at one point. I mean, it had to come out
I
at
know
one point.
it still hurts a little
It was
bit. I'm not gonna
inevitable.
lie.
It was
Not gonna lie.
inevitable. It was
But
inevitable.
yeah, it was. It was. Except that tears. But that all said, like what happens? Okay, so the one thing there are two things people generally don't like talking about are politics and religion, and I think it's because we have somewhere along the way. There's two words there. One is compromise. for whatever reason. Now, I might like red jelly beans. You might like blue jelly beans.
Red jelly beans are the worst.
They might be. They're totally the worst. They might totally be the worst. But I might say the same thing about the blue ones. But at the end of the day, they're both jelly beans. And when you get right down to it, right, it might be of one difference. But the thing is, we have more in common as people than we do that are different, right? And even if there are things that are different, right, we can learn how to coexist within those differences. Maybe maybe we both agree that maybe schools should be financed a little bit better on both sides of the crick, because that would be, I think, a better world for all of us. Not just right.
I would like to live in a world of smart people. Not that we don't already, but somebody was telling me the other day. It was an older woman who I had known for years and years through the school district, and her taxes went up a little bit. There was a levy. Our taxes went up a little bit to be able to fund the schools a little bit differently. And she was saying, I don't have kids in school. Why am I paying for public education? And it's not my original answer. I don't remember where I heard it from, but I love the answer is because you don't want to live in a community of idiots, right? You want everybody around you to be able to think and be able to communicate, be able to help the society and the village or the city or the wherever you live in. So wouldn't you want to fund people being able to be smarter so that the society or the city that you live in is a success? And she just goes, all right. Her answer was, all right.
That's fair. I actually have my reason is actually really simple. I want the world to be better than I left it. And the only way, and honestly, so I say this for all I criticize about critical thinking. Kids are by and large smarter than I was, and I don't feel bad saying that. They should be. They should be better than me.
Oh yeah,
right.
If they're not getting better, if each generation isn't getting better or stronger or more aware of the world around them and how to successfully traverse through that world, then we didn't do our job. Then the generation before us didn't do their job. So as generation through generation go, even though the older generation is kids these days, blah, 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 which is going to be every generation. But as long as the generation continues to grow and get better and get better at that, solving those problems that we continuously seem to have over and over and over again. And to your point, also the jelly beans. I'm going to change the jelly beans to isms.
Okay.
Any ism is going to have good ideas and bad ideas. So instead of locking yourself into one ism, look at all the isms and say what isms will work best for what we're trying to do, and let's pull from this ism, and let's pull from this ism, and let's pull from this ism, and let's try to make the best society for all people that we possibly can, instead of locking into one ism, no matter what ism it is, no matter what country it is, no matter what era it is, no matter whatever it is, finding all those isms that can work together and making something from all the good of everything, instead of focusing on each ism is gonna have problems because it's created by human beings, and human beings are imperfect beings. So finding those positive things and taking those positive things out of it, rather than saying we're gonna pick one and we're gonna go with it no matter what the situation is, I think is one of the things in our society, in our politics, in our whatever, that is really holding us back.
So I've lived in the States a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
I had the opportunity to live in a Mormon community, and
yeah,
you think you know it. You think you know this. You think you know.
Yeah.
Not quite.
I can't wait to hear it.
I'm not gonna. I found out on the car trip that it was a Mormon community. I didn't actually know. I literally walked into that blind. Like literally, it's like, whoa, that's a thing, right? That's a story for another day. But what I remember, this is the honest thing I remember when I came out of it, and it actually, because I once upon a time I was very conservative. I had a really big stick up my ass in terms of how I thought the world worked.
Sure.
Right. And
in your 20s, early 20s ish.
Yeah, 20s, early 20s, 25. little bit, maybe a little bit harder than most. I got this Maltese Mediterranean stubborn streak in me. It's there, and I got that little German. I got a little German barbarian in me as well. So it's kind of, I need to get kicked in the head for hardcore sometimes a little bit to get some things.
I think that's fairly normal. I have German, Italian, and Irish heritage, so
we got stuff in common. So you know what I'm saying? It's like we both every once in a while we do need to kick in the heads. Like listen, we're not gonna see it any other way. And don't feel bad, ladies and gentlemen. Every lump I've gotten in this life, I've on some level deserved. I'm okay with it. I've made my peace with it. Oh yeah. So, but all of which to say is like one of the things I really got out of this was how valuable variety is. Mm-hmm. Because watching the lack of variety that was like there, mm-hmm. and what that did to people around them that weren't, that like there's always exceptions, doesn't matter where you go, and the expectations it created around everybody was so unhealthy. And I thought, because everybody now was trying to fit a role, not necessarily who they were. Mm-hmm. And some people, like, you know what, and some people could do it, and some people, and, you know, God bless them. I'm honestly, like I said, I'm not knocking anybody's religious choices. Sure. But what I learned from that was the world is better when I am living beside a Hindu, a Buddhist, mm-hmm. an atheist, an agnostic, a Wiccan, even a Satanist, who doesn't matter. It really, really doesn't in one real sense, because the variety, the differences force us all to grow. And that is an amazing thing. When I came out, I was a lot looser. Now, it took probably 10 years to get all of some of that conservative prick out of me. This podcast has been a blessing for me that way, because what it forced me to do was it forced me to really talk and listen to people. Sure. And when you learn that, it's like, again, it's not the way you imagine it to be. And honestly, the older I get, the less I know. And I think, honest to God, that's the way it should be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that a lot of times people get pigeonhole themselves into mm-hmm. those labels of whatever it is, whatever thing that they think they are to be a part of something. And there's nothing wrong with being a part of something. Nothing wrong with having an idea and sticking with it, as long as it doesn't become a hindrance to anybody else. But I think that one of the problems, especially here in the States, is that people will not stray from their thing, even when their thing is clearly falling apart on them. Does that make sense? Like it's hard for people to recognize the change that's coming through the pipe and adjusting themselves accordingly to whatever that thing is, to new facts, or knowing and understand what a fact is, and knowing that their opinion, while is theirs, then they can have it. Nobody's stopping them from having it. Their opinion doesn't change what the facts of the situation, whatever that situation are. And I think that's what goes back to that critical thinking, problem solving skills, right? The idea that I don't care what facts you put in front of me, you're not going to change my opinion, is problematic when their facts don't align, and they don't align with at least recognizing that those facts are facts. Right? Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
We got deep here, Josh. We're
gonna go
really digging that hole deep.
We're gonna go.
Oh, let's go.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask a very. It might not seem like it ties together, but I'm gonna bring a point. I'm gonna bring this around.
And we'll circle back.
What's more dangerous? Moral righteousness without facts, mm-hmm. or facts without integrity?
I'm gonna, if I had to choose, I would say that moral righteousness without facts is a little more dangerous, because who determines the morality?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Does that make sense?
No,
Like,
I
who
get there.
determines? Like, a lot of people will say that morality is subjective. A lot of people say morality is objective, and you can make an argument for both on some level. But I think that's that most people would say that morality is very subjective, depending on who you are, where you're from, the situation, whatever it is. So having that righteousness without the facts can be dangerous if
Absolutely.
if the person that they are in judgment of or whatever thinks differently from them. So if that person that thinks differently from them might not be doing anything morally wrong, but if
No.
that person thinks they are, and 1,000 years ago gets stoned because of it, or gets hung because of it, or gets thrown into a river with their hands and legs tied because of it, that becomes a problem to what morality actually is.
Okay. So I'm gonna throw you the other side of that coin because
Okay.
this answers your question somewhat about the isms. So if you have knowledge without integrity,
Mhm.
how valuable is that knowledge? Because if you sit there and think about that, if you have no integrity and you know all the answers,
Mm-hmm.
in one sense you're causing even more harm
Mm-hmm.
because you do know better,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're doing it this way anyway. And
Mm-hmm.
what you've done now is that those truths and those facts that you have
Mm-hmm.
are now being weighted against the consequences of your actions.
Mm-hmm.
And you force people to make a choice they really shouldn't have to,
Yeah.
which is if this is the right way, then this is the way I should go.
Sure.
Not, but if you are deceptive with with those truths, if you
Mhm.
are lying to people with those truths, you force people to question. Because again, human nature. If you
Mhm.
are lying to me on one level, what other levels are you lying to me? And now
Mhm.
I can't trust you. And if I can't trust you, I'm going to look around for any other answers that I might know, no matter how outlandish they might seem.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
So to answer your question, part of the reason you have that is because there is a lack of transparency and integrity
Mhm.
at the very top levels of the country.
I
And
100% agree with you.
yeah, if you create transparency, and this is true here too, by the way,
Mhm.
this is as big a problem in Canada as it is in the States.
Mhm.
This is what I'm saying here. If we had a system that was more transparent and had more integrity,
Mhm.
there would be a lot less of these isms and other things out there because people would have a clear, concise path.
I agree. We would not have the need for the isms because we would all just work together to solve the problems.
Yeah. Oh, they
Yeah.
might still be there. But
Yeah.
the thing is, but the thing is, it's no longer. I'm looking for an answer. I'm trusting that this is going to be the
Mhm.
right way.
Yeah.
One of the struggles of the last year, we were talking about some of this stuff out of the air, right? It's just it right is that's the struggle,
Yeah.
and like for someone like me, like what do you do? Someone like you, and again, not agreeing or disagreeing. It's just this is the problem. These are the problems we have today. It has evolved from moral righteousness without facts.
Mhm.
Now it's gone the other way, where we have a lot of facts, but not a lot of integrity and transparency.
Mhm.
And because we don't have those things, and something we mentioned earlier, the lack of critical thinking,
Mhm.
we go back to older ways.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. My hope is that on some level, as a human race, we reach the point where we understand, that morality um, isn't black and white. Some people would disagree with that, and that's okay. That's okay. But for I think what we need to do to succeed as a race of people is that to understand that morality, while flexible, while there are definitely no-nos when it comes to how we affect each other as people. The three off the top of my head that aren't touched upon enough, I think, are murder, of course, is touched upon, rape is touched upon, of course, and then slavery. So these three things are definitely things that if you're doing to other people, you are on the wrong side of morality. I think on some level, like they talk about stealing to eat. You know what I mean? While stealing is wrong, if you're doing it to feed yourself or a child or something like that, wrong becomes a little a little more adjustable kind of a
Yeah.
thing. And some people might disagree. Wrong is wrong. There's no adjusting. There's no black and white. It's just bloop, or there's no gray. It's just black and white, and there it is. And they could probably make a pretty solid argument for that.
So going now asked a really good question. So going in now, how many people would trust it though? If all of a sudden you had that now, people are so jaded, it would take generations for it to stick, but that might be worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It actually wouldn't take that long. If people saw, it's a really simple concept. Mm-hmm. If I say I'm going to do something and I do it, I've established a degree of credibility. Yeah. If I keep saying something and I keep doing it, that credibility will grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Inevitably, now they might still be like, I don't trust this guy. I don't believe this guy. Mm-hmm. But they won't be able to say a word because honest to God, I follow mm-hmm. through. Yeah. I follow through. And eventually, this is no matter how jaded you get, if I say something and I follow through mm-hmm. every time, or at least I try to follow through. And when I screw up, I don't hide that I screwed up. I acknowledge I screwed up.
Yep.
I've created both integrity and transparency. Mm-hmm. Now, some people will never let me not get away with screwing up. That's true. Sure. But at the end of the day, I do that long enough, hard enough, often enough. Inevitably, I think it wouldn't take that long, honestly.
Yeah. I agree. The leadership should follow the rule of do what you say and say what you do. Mm-hmm. Like understanding that you're not trying to trick us. You're not going to trick us into voting for you or whatever well, I say that and then
there you go, right? But I mean,
and then but for the most part, we just want leaders who will fight for everyone. You know what I mean? For and not just line their own pockets, which is unfortunately happens a lot with leadership. I think that there are more leaders in countries like ours, that's like yours and mine, that do care mm-hmm. about helping the average person, but unfortunately they're like we talked about how they can't see maybe past their own nose or past their own constituents, that they don't see the broader range of the things that they're trying to do for their little group of people that voted for them, that's probably or maybe could negatively affect a wider range of people that did not vote for them. And on some level, maybe they don't care, and maybe that's a big part of the problem also.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, like that. I'm just going to listen. Going now says since I brought up this point, that's the key. A lot of people do a lot of great things, but actually when they screw up, they don't take responsibility for it, and that's when it becomes a slippery slope. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, look, I'm a fuck up, and I say that in like the nicest way possible. Yeah. I screw up all the time. Mm-hmm. What I try to do is I try to own up to it when I do. Now, sometimes I do make some of the same mistakes over and over and over again, and that's just me having to learn to get better. Yeah. But I own it. I don't try to hide. I don't try to hide my mistakes. I try to overcome them as best I can, and that's all we can ask of anybody. So,
and that's anybody who cast the first stone kind of thing. And let's and not to. I'm hoping that in this conversation nobody knows what side I fall on, but let's take the two sides of the coin that's big right now: mm-hmm. Biden and Trump. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even going to talk about Biden and Trump. I'm going to talk about the way people react to Biden and Trump. Mm-hmm. So Biden a couple of weeks ago tripped on the stairs of getting into Air Force One, and he seemed to stumble over 2 or 3 steps to be able to get up into Air Force One. He stood up and he laughed and he waved his hand, whatever. Trump has done similar things. The first thing that comes to mind is the toilet paper on his shoe. So the same people who were berating and making fun of Biden said, "Oh, that's not a big deal for Trump. That's not a big deal. That's just a mistake. Don't worry about it." The same people that were making fun of Trump are saying that's not a big deal for Biden. So it's that bumping heads of not being able to see that they're arguing the same thing just with different people, and there really is no argument. He tripped on the stairs. He accidentally had some toilet paper on his shoe. Who cares? Who cares? How is this argument helpful to moving forward as a country to make sure that we are focusing on the betterment of every single member of our society. It's not helpful.
I think the last thing I'm going to say that, on this is, did Biden and Trump know your name? If the answer is no, then I would.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it really doesn't, right?
Yeah,
So it is what it is. Like that's it. That's kind of like, do they know who you are? Cool. No, then don't worry about it. I mean that's it. All you can do is you control what you control. Do your best, and honestly, again, going back to the very beginning, try to be empathetic with people, and that's all you can do, right? So, Mr. Dave, I mean, I think we do have an interesting interview here. We've got a little all over this, but I've got to say, congrats on your 15th issue. Like, honestly, that is a huge achievement. Yeah, I don't care, like, especially as an independent. Like, I can imagine like 4 issues. No, but you've done like you've done like 15. So before I guess we wrap up and we get to the all wonderful plugs and stuff, I guess I'm gonna ask this: does it get easier? Because you've been telling the story for a while now.
As I'm answering, I'm gonna plug in my computer. My computer's about to die, and I don't want to, especially the last couple seconds of our conversation here, my computer die on me here. I am going to answer that as I plug in my computer. Does it get easier? I don't think that it gets easier. I think that the challenges remain, which the challenges are part of the fun. And I'm having trouble finding my plugin right now. The challenges are part of the fun to be able to tell the story that you're telling. And come on, sorry, Josh.
No worries, you gotta do what you gotta do. This is Dave's. Dave's chair is talking right now, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a good-looking chair, and I've got a good-looking background. So there we go.
Yeah, I'm actually I'm jealous of some of his background. I'm not gonna lie. It's a good background.
It's a good background. My He-Man. I love my He-Man figure here, and my Superman tins. It's my. When I told my wife I was putting this up, she goes, "Are you sure?" And I said, "Oh yeah." I'm sure. So anyway, so to answer your question, I think that the part of it is the fun is the struggle. Is a struggle to say, oh, I've got this idea for a 24-pager. Let's see if it works out. And there have been times where I'd be working on a 24-page for days, weeks, months, and I just can't find the hook. So it's those things that are frustrating from time to time. But in the end, it's that process that helps me succeed in other stories that I want to tell. So after 15 issues of The Offspring, I have found, I think, a good groove. And I've known these characters for a long time. Like I said, I've had them since I was a teenager. The story has grown as I have grown. The story has changed as I have changed when I started to really understand what kind of story I wanted to tell. But the characters themselves are very much based off people that I know, and the characters are people that I feel like I know. So being able to use these characters that feel like real people to me, it sounds weird, I know, has really been one of the best things that I think that I've ever done. And my hope is, regardless of movies or TV shows or anybody else ever buying the book, which I hope does happen, my hope is that my kids see the trades or see the omnibuses that I put up together and say, what's this, Dad? And oh, that's your great grandfather. He created comic books. And they look at it and say, that was cool. And to me, I won't be here to see it, but to me, that's part of the reason, very small part, because I do want these books to be a success monetarily. But in the end, I'm doing it for me, for my love of doing it, and hoping that they do become a success as I do it.
I wish you the best of luck. I have one final question, then we get to the plug. Are you ready?
Ready.
What have you learned doing this?
With you right here, with me and you?
No.
Or just in general?
With the comics. With me and you can tell me that off here. It's not a big deal. But
yeah. What have I learned? I've learned that I have a very forgiving wife and 2 children because they allow me to do what I want to do. They allow me to sit here in the den locked in with you talking for 2 hours. They allow me to sit at my drawing table. They allow me to be able to do the things that I need to do to be able to create the books and the stories that I want to tell, and not get yelled at too much while I'm doing it. So I think I found a good mix of saying, okay, I'm going to go draw for 2 hours, and then walking out and knowing that when I step out after 2 hours or an hour or 15 minutes of drawing or writing or whatever it is I'm doing, I know that when I step out, I'm 100% dad or 100% husband, and the stuff that I needed to do got done because my family knows that it's important to me, and that's I can't. There's no amount of money that can replace that feeling that my 2 kids and my wife and all my extended family really support what it is that I do, and I can't thank them enough for it.
Yeah, that's amazing. And your wife sounds awesome, and your kids sound awesome. So
They're all right. I'll
they're all
keep them.
right. They're all
I'll
right.
keep them. Yeah, I'll keep
You
them for a
keep
little
them.
bit.
You keep them. You keep them. Okay. Well, I think at this point, Mr. Dave, we have a good interview here. What do you think?
I agree. I had
All
a
right.
great time.
That was fun. We had good. We talked a little bit about everything.
We did.
But this is promo time. This is you telling about all the stuff and why that's awesome, and maybe cheese, or maybe not maybe cheese, but why it's awesome, and how people can find you.
Yeah, so I have my website, correcthandedcomics.com. You can find links to all of the books that I have created. I do a lot of my traffic on and talking about the books and promoting the books on social media, Facebook at Correct Handed Comics, on Twitter and Instagram at correct_handed. And then I have my Instagram feed, which is just my name, David.Whalen.1614. If you search David Whalen, I'm sure it'll come up. And then I do a lot of stuff, actually a lot of videos on TikTok. I know I'm a little old for TikTok, but my daughter and I actually enjoy it very much. And you can find me at Correct Handed Comics on TikTok also. We have like I said, issue 15 of The Offspring just came out, and I'm very happy with the way the book is progressing, and I can't wait to continue the story, telling the story. I have three one-shots that have come out. Shady Lady, which is a thriller noir based in New York City. I'm glad you liked it. I have my closest thing to a superhero story that I've told with a superhero called Spiral, called I Won't Stop, and it really is kind of a breakdown of the idea of with great power comes great responsibility. And it's a story about how a superhero can take that too far, can take that power and responsibility too far. And then I have a fun, really kind of based off my real life story, except for the alien invasion part, an alien invasion on a school called Will Aliens Do My Homework? And that came across, it's fun. I love telling the story because it came about because I was walking through my classroom after I had finished the lesson. The kids were drawing their drawings, doing their coloring, and I thought, what would happen, just out of my brain, what would happen if aliens were to attack right now? How would I handle that as a teacher? What would I have to do? How would I get these kids to safety? And by the end of the day, I had 24 pages plotted out of what would happen if I thought that aliens would invade a school. And the one thing I keep hearing from this story, Will Aliens Do My Homework, is that people have never seen an art teacher as a protagonist. And somebody said that to me, and I go, oh yeah, I don't think I've ever seen an art teacher as a protagonist of a movie, a comic, a TV show, and anything. So I'm gonna say that I'm the first that has an alien invasion art teacher as the protagonist. So, and then I have my 100+ page graphic novel, The Loved Ones, which is really kind of a love story of classic movie monsters. So it's about the story. The story is about the kids of classic movie monsters: Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman. The kids are abducted, we'll say the word, by a Van Helsing type monster hunter character and raised by this monster hunter. So it's a nurture versus nature story, and the kids of these monsters go out and search for / hunt their parents. And it's a real good story has a lot of good humanity about how nurture versus nature is a real eye opener for a lot of these characters, because they see what they should do and what they shouldn't do, and how they're different compared to who they are, and what a vampire should do and what they shouldn't do, what a Frankenstein's monster should do and what they shouldn't do, what a witch should do and what they shouldn't do, in that classic monster vein. And then lastly, my my 4-page issue miniseries, 4-issue miniseries, Evolution Utero, about a superhero that is a superhero before they're born, and how it changes the mother, who is going to be the mother of this superhero, who is not a very nice person. So the superhero is being is growing inside the belly of a woman who is the worst. Picture the worst person you've ever met in your life: selfish, mean, greedy, and that person is birthing the next superhero that's going to help save society. So she has to struggle with the idea of her selfishness and how that baby changes her throughout her pregnancy.
Yeah.
So a lot going on.
A lot going on.
A lot going on.
Definitely. That was wow. So pick one. Which one would you tell people to start with you?
To start with, I understand, as an indie creator, I understand how ongoings can be hard for people to pick up from time to time, because there's 15 issues, and like you said, a lot of indie creators don't get to 4. So I understand how picking up 15 issues of an ongoing series can be difficult. I would say start with one of the 24-page one-shots. See if you like my style. See if you like the stories that I tell, and then pick up the 100-plus page graphic novel. If you like those, pick up the 4-issue miniseries. If you like those, you'll like The Offspring. The Offspring, I think, has a lot of action, a lot of adventure, a lot of heart. And with the stories that I'm starting to tell now, starts to get into some really, really, not that it hasn't been fun for the whole thing, but really fun, interesting stories that I think are really different, that people will really enjoy.
Sounds great. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is my conversation with David Whalen. All right. So my drink and draw this week is Shawnee O on Saturday. Definitely take a look at it there. For everybody else watching, listening, thank you. If you want to support this podcast, do so a number of different ways. Click the like, follow button on my Twitch, twitch.tv/justjoshua podcast. My YouTube channel is Joshua Pentellaresco. It's Poetry Month. Alice Zero is currently on sale on Amazon. Definitely take a look at it there if you haven't already. Stay inspired. Keep shining in the dark. And I'll see you guys Saturday. 1 and